Okay. So we have the incomer and later on we have the sub-incomer. Okay. So these are the features for the sub-incomer: ability to achieve the economy without sacrificing the protection and the safety. The other one is these are all the equipment present in the sub-incomer. Okay. Going to the next slide. So later on we have the feeders. So incomers, sub-incomers, later on we have the feeders which are going to feed the distributors there. Okay. So different feeders are connected to the feeder bus to feed different loads like, so we have the different loads like motor loads, lighting loads. Lighting loads are nothing but our tube lights, bulbs, etc. Industrial machinery loads, air conditioner loads, transformer cooling system loads, etc. So coming to the motor feeder should be protected against the overload. So see, all these are nothing but the loads which are being connected to the feeders. Now we need to provide the safety to that particular equipment. Suppose we are feeding a motor, we are calling it as a motor feeder. Okay. Now, for the motor feeder, it should be protected against the overload, short circuit, overcurrent, up to locked rotor condition and single phasing. Okay, so these are the protections we have to provide for the motor feeder. Next, we have the industrial machinery load feeder. For this, uh, like feeder connected to the industrial machinery load like oven, electroplating, bath, etc. are all commonly protected by the MCCB and the switch fuse units. So these are the protective equipment we have to use for the industrial machinery load feeder. Next, coming to the lighting load feeder. So for the lighting load feeder, we should provide the safety against the harmful leakages of current and the fire. Okay. Next, in the LV switchgear system, electrical appliances are protected against short circuit and overload conditions by the electrical fuses or the circuit breakers. However, human operator is not adequately protected against the faults occurring inside the appliances. See, LV switchgear system is going to provide the electrical fuses and the circuit breakers. Okay, so in that we are going to protect only the equipment. But if suppose any human is coming in contact with any of the circuitry, maybe he won't be protected. Okay, for providing the protection for the human also, we have one more device, that is earth leakage circuit breaker. Okay, so this operates on the low leakage current. The earth leakage circuit breaker can detect the leakage current as low as 100 milliamperes and is capable of disconnecting the appliance in less than 100 milliseconds. Okay, so this is one more device you can have, that is earth leakage circuit breaker. So this is a general definition of a circuit breaker. It is one kind of switching device which can be activated automatically as well as manually to control and protect the electrical power system respectively. Okay. Next, coming to the MCCB, not MCCB, this is only MCB. Okay, miniature circuit breaker. It's an electromechanical device which is going to guard an electrical circuit from overcurrent that may affect from the short circuit, overload, or imperfect design of the circuit. So this MCB is going to protect against the overcurrent, short circuit, overloading, as well as the imperfect design of the circuit. By mistake, if the design is imperfect, then also MCB is going to protect the circuit. Okay. Next, MCB is a blend of three functions. What are those? Protection against the short circuit, overload, and the switching. Okay, so this MCB is going to protect against these three uh, functions. Okay, next, coming to the characteristics of MCB. Rated current is not more than 100 amperes. Normally, trip characteristics are not adjustable. Thermal magnetic operation. thermal or thermal magnetic operation is prevailing. Okay, and a link is also given here for the checking out of the miniature circuit breaker operation. You can check it out in that particular link. I'll provide you this particular PPT afterwards, after the completion of this class. Next, this is how the MCB looks like. Okay, so we have the power terminal which is to be connected. You can see here. So this is our power terminal. The power terminal will be inserted into this, and the screw will be tightened like this. Okay, so that it holds the power terminal here. Okay, and this is the bimetallic strip. You can see here. Okay, so if there is sudden increase in the current or the voltage from the supply side, this bimetallic strip is going to take that heat, overload heat, and it is going to bend. Okay, like this, it is going to bend. Okay, so thereby it is going to start the operation mechanism here. Okay, so there is a trip coil here, you can see, which is going to trip the circuit. Okay, so this is in the on position. When you want to off, switch off, you can just move this operating lever to downwards. Okay, now the switch is in the on position. Okay, MCB is in the on position. Okay, so this trip coil is going to energize, and it is going to release the operating lever so that it will be downwards whenever the fault occurs. Okay, so this is some moving contact for the movement of the operating mechanism. So one will be a fixed contact, one will be a moving contact. Okay, so this is a fixed contact, the other one is a moving contact. So the main thing is this bimetallic strip is going to take up the charge here. Okay, whenever there is a over current. Let me go to the next slide. This is how a MCB looks like. You have seen in the lab also this MCB. Next, coming to the MCCB, molded case circuit breaker. This is used to control the electrical energy in distribution and is having short circuit and overload protection. This circuit breaker is an electromechanical device which guards a circuit from the short circuit and the over current. These are the characteristics you can see for the MCB. It is rated not more than 100 amperes here. Okay, and it can function for the three faults, that is short circuit, overload, and switching. Okay, whereas MCCB is only for the two, that is short circuit and the overcurrent, and the range is up to 1000 amperes. Okay, trip current may be adjusted, thermal or magnetic operation. There it is the thermal protection. Here it is thermal or thermal magnetic operation. Here we have thermal or magnetic operation. So these are some of the differences between MCB and MCCB. So this is how the MCCB looks like. Okay, it is molded case. That is why we are calling it as a molded case. Okay. Next, coming to the earth leakage circuit breaker. The earth leakage circuit breaker is used to protect the circuit from the electrical leakage. The name indicates that it is going to it is going to prevent the leakage. Not preventing the leakage, it is going to protect the circuit from the leakage. Okay, so when someone gets an electrical shock, then this circuit breaker cuts off the power at a time of 0.1 second. Okay, for protecting the personal safety and avoiding the glare from the circuit against the short circuit and overload, this particular ELCB is used. So usually in case of industries or in case of any laboratories, we are going to have this earth leakage circuit breaker. Whenever someone gets shocked, automatically the earth leakage circuit is going to sense it, and it is going to break the circuit. So these are the characteristics. This circuit breaker connects the phase, earth wire and the neutral. So earth wire is different again, neutral is again a different one. Okay, neutral is somewhat at a higher potential when compared to the earth. The working of the circuit breaker depends upon the current leakage. So that limit will be there, the current limit will be there. Okay, when the current limit is being increased, that is when the short circuit current is more when compared to the limit current, then automatically it is going to operate. So this is how our ELCB looks like. Okay. Next, RCCB. This is the RCCB. RCCB is an essential current sensing equipment used to guard a low voltage circuit from the fault. It comprises a switch device used to turn off the circuit when a fault occurs in the circuit. So RCCB is aimed at guarding a person from the electrical shocks. So this is also the same thing again. It is going to guard a person from the electrical shocks. So these are the characteristics. Both wires, the phase and the neutral, are connected through the RCCB. Whenever there is any ground fault occurs, then it trips the circuit. So ground fault occurs, then the uh, RCCB comes in comes into the action. The amount of current supplies through the line should go back through the neutral. So these are very effective type of shock protection devices. Okay. So this is how RCCB looks like. So usually in our household, for the connection of the motors, pumps, we are going to use such RCCBs. Next, coming to the earthing. What is actually earthing? What are the different types of earthings we have? We have to study here. See, you know the general meaning of earthing is we are for any house we are going to have the earthing. Okay, for prevention of the shocks we use that earthing. So earthing is to connect any electrical equipment to earth with a very low resistance wire, making it to attain earth's potential. So the wire is usually connected to a copper plate placed at a depth of 2.5 to 3 meters. See, for each and every equipment, we are not going to give the earthing. Okay. For the entire house, we are going to give a earthing line, and that line is being connected to the ground of the all the cables. Okay. So that is what we have to do here. The potential of the earth is considered to be at zero for all the practical purposes, as the generator neutral is always earthed. The body of any electrical equipment is connected to the earth by means of a wire of negligible resistance to safely discharge the electrical energy, which may be due to the failure of insulation or line coming in contact with the casing. Okay. So there the actual earthing will come into picture. Okay. So whenever there is a failure or some line, that is supply line, is coming in contact with the casing of the equipment, then our humans are going to get a electric shock. Okay. So for prevention of that, we use the earthing. Next, we have two methods of the earthing, that is plate earthing and the pipe earthing. Okay. So coming to the plate earthing, in this method, a copper plate of these dimensions or a GI plate of these dimension is being used. The plate is placed vertically. You can see here the plate is being placed vertically into the ground at a depth of 3 meters, and the thickness this is embedded in alternate layers of coal and salt for a thickness of 15 centimeters. In addition, water is poured for keeping the earth electrode resistance value well below a maximum of 5 ohms. Okay, it should be less than 5 ohms. The earth wire is securely bolted to the earth plate. A cement masonry chamber, you can see here in the figure. So this is our plate. Okay, So alternatively, we are providing the salt here and the charcoal, and this is being connected to a pipe here, you can see here. So from where the water is being poured. Okay. So this is the cement chamber, so that no one will be getting contact in with this particular equipment. Next, coming to the pipe earthing. So pipe earthing, earth electrode made of galvanized iron pipe. GI is nothing but galvanized iron material. So this is of 38 mm diameter and length of 2 meters with 12 mm holes on the surface is placed upright. You can see the figure here. Okay, so this is the pipe earthing. Okay, so this is the GI pipe which is of 2 meters. You can see here, length of 2 meters and 38 mm of diameter. Okay. So this is placed upright at depth of 4.75 meters, approximately 5 meters you can say, and it is permanently wet ground. It should be a wet ground. Okay. The wire is being pulled out from here, from the GI pipe, and it is given to the grounding there. Okay. So these are the two earthing methods you can see. That one is a plate earthing and the other one is the pipe earthing. Next, coming to the next topic, that is wires and the cables. So, so wires and the cables are built are nothing but the conductors. You can say the size and type of the wire or the cable must suit the power rating required for the use. The higher the power, the thicker the wire or the cable used. Coming to the wires, domestic and small industry wiring in appliances, we are going to use the wires. Coming to the cables, small and big industries, distribution lines, transmission lines, we are going to take up the cables. Next, wires are mainly of 6 types. You can see here, vulcanized Indian rubber wire, we abbreviate it as VIR, tough rubber sheeted wire TRS, polyvinyl chloride wire. Usually we use this PVC wires, or we usually call it as cable, but those are PVC wires which we use in our house wiring. Okay. Next we have lead alloy sheeted wire, weatherproof wires, flexible wires. So these are the 6 type of wires. Okay. The mostly used one is the PVC wire. Okay, let us discuss the VIR first. So vulcanized Indian rubber wire. Okay, so it looks like this. Okay, so inside first we have the conductors. Okay, so all those are tinned copper or aluminum conductors. On that we have the vulcanized Indian rubber. Okay. On that we have the cotton tape and the cotton braiding. Okay. So which can absorb any like any moisture is there, that is going to be absorbed by the cotton tape or the cotton braiding. Okay. Finally, we have the bitumen material on which a waxing like thing is being placed. Okay, for the protection. Okay. So these VIR are suitable for low and medium voltage supplies only, not the higher voltage supplies. And these have already become outdated, old type, not readily available for purchase now. Okay. So vulcanized Indian rubber wires are mainly consisting of tinned conductor having rubber coating. Tinning of the conductor prevents the sticking of the rubber into the conductor. Thickness of the rubber mainly depends upon the operating voltage to which the wire is being designed. Cotton braiding is done over the rubber insulations to protect the conductor against the moisture, which was already discussed. Finally, the wire is finished with the wax for cleanliness. Nowadays, these wires are not used since the better quality wires are available at a very cheaper rate. Okay. So let us discuss the PVC wire here. So you can have different varieties of PVC wires here. Okay. The same thing, the conductors are made up of copper or the aluminum. These are available in the 600, 660, 1100 voltage specifications. Widely used, longer life, durable against the water, heat, oil, UV light also. Okay, we call them as polyvinyl chloride wires. Okay, so these are the mostly used wires in our household wirings. Okay. Next, coming to the features, these are non-inflammable, insoluble in common liquids, possess good mechanical strength, high dielectric strength, and longer life. So, however, these coatings have a tendency of softening when subject to even moderate temperature. Hence, these are used only if the conductor temperature does not exceed 65 degrees centigrade. Okay. So, because of many advantages, the PVC cables have replaced VIR cables for the low voltage installation. Okay. So, PVC has replaced the VIR cables. Elementary calculations for the energy consumption. Let us see how the energy consumption is being calculated. See, in our houses, we have the energy meters, right? Now, what are the units of the energy meter? Kilowatt hours. Our energy consumption is being measured in our energy consumption is being measured in kilowatt hours. So the primary way electrical consumption is measured is the unit watt hour. Lighting, common household appliances such as AC, computers, toasters, are all products requiring the electricity for their function. Okay. The power is the rate at which energy is transferred from one place to another or from one form to another. The formula for the energy is power in multiplied by the time. So unit of energy is joule. The unit of power is watt and the unit of time is second. So if we know the power in watts of an appliance and how many seconds it is used, we can calculate the number of joules or the energy consumed, electrical energy consumed. Okay. So that we are going to measure in terms of kilowatt hour. Okay. So 1 kilowatt hour is the amount of energy that would be converted by 1000 watt appliance when used for 1 hour. Okay. So 1 kilowatt appliance which is used for 1 hour is going to consume 1 kilowatt hour energy unit. Okay. Now coming to the power factor improvement, we know what is the power factor. The cosine angle between the voltage and the current, we call it as the power factor, and always the power factor should be maintained at unity. Okay. So usually the power factor value is between 0 to 1. Okay. So that is to be maintained unity always, but it is not prevailing condition in all the systems. Okay. For making it unity, we need to use some devices. Okay. So improving the power factor means reducing the phase difference between the voltage and the current. The lesser the phase difference, the more improved power factor will be. Okay. Since majority of the loads are of inductive nature, they require some amount of reactive power for them to function. Okay. So this reactive power is provided by the capacitor bank or the bank of the capacitors installed in parallel to the load. Okay. I told you before also this regarding the active power and the reactive power topics. I told you how the reactive power is going to be generated in the circuit. What is the reactive power? It is the power delivered by the uh, by the load to the supply. Okay, usually that won't be done. Okay, that is what we have discussed previously. Power delivered by the load is called as the reactive power. Okay, power being absorbed, we call it as the active power. Okay, so inductors absorb the reactive power, capacitors are going to generate the reactive power. Okay, so methods, coming to the methods of the power factor improvement, we have to provide the reactive power. Okay, then that will improve the power factor of the system. Okay, so how we can provide the reactive power? We can use static capacitor, synchronous generator, and the phase advancer. So these are the three equipments used for the power factor improvement. Okay, coming to the static capacitor, for the power factor improvement purpose, static capacitors are connected in parallel with those devices which work on low power factor. Yes, for the improvement only we are using the static capacitors. Okay, so static capacitors are connected in parallel. They are capacitors, right? So they should be connected in parallel always. Okay. So these static capacitors provides the leading current which neutralize the lagging inductive component of the load current. Okay, since all the loads, usual loads are inductive, we have to use the capacitors for providing the reactive power. So that is what this static capacitor is going to do. Okay, so thereby it is going to compensate the lagging inductive component. Okay, and thereby improving the power factor of the load. So these capacitors are installed in the vicinity of the large inductive load, example induction motors, transformers, etc., and improve the load circuit power factor to improve the system or the device efficiency. Okay. So these are the advantages and the disadvantages of static capacitors. Next, going to the synchronous condenser. See, when a synchronous motor operates at no load and overexcited, then we call it as a synchronous condenser. Okay. So when the synchronous motor operating at no load is overexcited, we call that as the synchronous condenser. Okay. So it provides a leading current and it is going to work like a capacitor. So again, that is what which is needed for us. That is, we need a capacitor for the connecting for connection. Okay. So synchronous condenser is like a capacitor only. Okay. Again, it is going to give you a provide you a leading current which eliminates the which improves the power factor. Okay. So these are the advantages and disadvantages. So coming to the advantages, it is going to it has a longer life, almost 25 years, high reliability, stepless adjustment of the power factor, no generation of the harmonics at all. Okay, and faults can be removed easily. Disadvantages, it is expensive. Of course, we are using a motor, synchronous motor, extra device there for providing the uh, leading current. So obviously the cost will be more. Okay, auxiliary device has to be used for this operation because synchronous motor has no self-starting torque. Yes, again there should be auxiliary device for the operation of the synchronous motor because it is not going to self-start. Okay, and it also produces the noise. So these are the disadvantages of the synchronous condenser. Next, coming to the final one, that is the phase advancer. So the name indicates that it is going to give an advancement in the phase. Okay, so that is, it is going to give some leading component. It is going to add some leading component. Okay, so that is the thing. It is given the name phase advancer. Okay, it's a very simple AC exciter which is connected on the main shaft of the motor and operates with the motor's rotor circuit for the power factor improvement. So phase advancer is used to improve the power factor of induction motor industries. As the stator windings of the induction motor takes lagging current 90 degrees out of phase with the voltage, therefore the power factor of the induction motor is very low. See, stator windings of the induction motor always have a, those are purely, not purely, highly inductive. Okay, so that is why the current will lag the voltage by 90 degrees. Okay, so now therefore the power factor of the induction motor will be very less, because cos approximately 90 degrees is nothing but it's a zero value. So power factor is almost zero. It should be maintained unity, right? So for that we need to use some phase advances. If the exciting ampere turns are excited by the external AC source, then there would be no effect of the exciting current on the stator windings. So thereby the power factor of the induction motor will be improved. So in case of induction motors, we have seen the main winding and the auxiliary winding. Okay, in the auxiliary winding, if we use an external AC source, so this particular phase advancer is going to prevail there. Okay, so advantages are lagging KVR drawn by the motor is sufficiently reduced because the exciting ampere turns are supplied at a slip frequency. The phase advancer can be easily used where the use of synchronous motors is unacceptable. Yes. See, synchronous motor is nothing but it's a device, it's a motor. It occupies a space. Okay, so where there is no option for the space, we can use the phase advances. Okay. Now coming to the disadvantages, using the phase advancers is not economical for the motors below 200 horsepower. Okay, so that is again a disadvantage. We can't use for below 200 HP motors. Okay, let me stop here. Next session after this, it is this session anyhow. It is going to end in more 2 minutes. So we have few more topics. Batteries topic is left over. I'll discuss you in this next session only. It's a very small topic. Before that, if you have any doubts now, you can ask me. Let me unmute all of you first. Okay, if you have any doubts in these topics, you can ask me now.